When I mention school, people normally will think of an institution that is made up of classrooms, made up of lecture halls, made up of conference rooms, made up of a headmaster or a head teacher or a principal, and some teachers, and so on and so forth. But the truth of the matter is that school is not necessarily something formal. It can also be something informal, and I'm going to talk about that in this episode today. We've been discussing what we can do in order to remain productive even when we are on lockdown and we are operating under curfews. There are several things that we're supposed to make sure that they are in place so that we are not just sitting there waiting for the season to pass so that we can go back and start becoming productive yet again. No, what we're doing is that we are leveraging every single detail that we have in the moment in order to continue being productive. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Life Signatures podcast with Lawrence Namale. Lawrence is a life coach, author, and keynote speaker who loves to tackle different topics on purpose, productivity, and resilience. His mission in life is to awaken all your boundless possibilities available in you. Life Signatures podcast is dedicated to bring to reality every single person who knows that deep down in their gut, there's got to be more to life than this. And now, here is your host, Lawrence Namale.
Every now and then my wife and I discuss about the enthusiasm that our children have for school as compared to the one we used to have for school. The earliest memories I have for myself about school is going to nursery school and maybe walking a distance and so on and coming back. And I also remember in primary school it was one of the most difficult things I could have done as a young guy, in that I was transferred from a township kind of school into a rural school where everyone was walking barefoot, and if you're walking around in shoes you look like you are foreign and you don't fit in, so you have to scale down, you have to remove your shoes and so on. And I was being forced to take lessons such as the native language. Those are subjects that I was supposed to take, that was supposed to teach me how to speak the local language. And I hated it. Up to today, I still do hate it. Probably it's because of my background of coming from town and so on and so forth. The thing is that it's not that I was that old. I was just 5 years of age and so on and so forth. But the thing is that school is probably an important thing, but at the end of the day also it's something very unfortunate in that nearly everyone is using school as the SI unit. I'm talking about formal school as the SI unit to gauge the success or failure of anyone in life. A big percentage of people, even those ones who are paupers, they will look at education as the key. We have very many songs telling us that education is the key, and it is actually absolutely true. It is 100% true. The only thing that makes us to go wrong is the identification of the education, which is the key. People normally think 100% that formal education for everyone is the key, and that is the world of academia. And the world of academia, you and I know that it is not the world for everyone. Not everyone is mathematically intelligent. Not everyone is able to understand all those concepts that were being taught in science and in geography and in history and so on. In fact, not everyone fancies all those things. Not everyone fancies mathematics, trigonometry, and all those stuff that are pumped into people. But still, I reiterate that education, yes, it is the key. It is an important aspect of life. You will not succeed, I will not succeed if there is no education. But let me just back up a little bit before I can go on headlong into this episode today. We are talking about how you can become productive in this season where most of us are being sent home because of the coronavirus pandemic. And we're working from home, hopefully, and we are doing things from home, hopefully, and so on. The environment under which we used to operate to work is totally different. It's no longer existing. We have to make do at home. So the question is, how do we fit in? How do we leverage? How do we become these productive people when this environment has already been altered, has already been changed? And we say that the silver bullet, the only thing that will make you to rise up and to become as productive as you can be 60 years from today, 60 days from today, 15 days from today, 14 days from today, from the day that the lockdown is announced to the day that it's lifted, what can you do to become productive is that you need to set an agenda, have a weekly agenda that determines what you're going to do on a Monday, what you're going to do on a Tuesday, what you're going to do on a Thursday, and so on and so forth. And we say that one of the ways you can make this easy is to determine your wheel of life, which means the area of your family, the area of your relationships, the area of your business, the area of your mind, the area of your physical, the area of your spiritual, the area of your mental, and the area of adventure. They are all catered for so that you plan around those 8 areas. But then we say that from then on, there are some aspects that are pillars that are going to go and up your agenda. In other words, that your agenda for the week, even as you're preparing it, cannot ignore some of these things. And the very first thing that we said you need to do when you're planning your agenda for the week is to make sure that you're planning around your purpose. R. Covey told us that it's useless to have to climb on top of a ladder and only to realize that the ladder was leaning on the wrong wall in the first place. So determine what wall you want your ladder to lean on. That is your purpose first, before you can start climbing, before you can start having activities that are productive for the week. What is your purpose? Which direction is your life taking? What is your vision? What is your mission? And organize your activities around that. Have your agenda for the week organized around that. And we say that it is very extremely important. And then in the podcast yesterday, we saw that it is important for you to plan around your presence, to plan around your brand, because we all have a brand, and people actually in this day and age, they interact through brands. And you don't need to be paid to have a brand. You don't need to be employed to have a brand. You don't need to be an organization to have a brand. Every individual has a brand. You just need to know it, you need to own it, and need to show it out. And every time you want to do any transaction with anyone, they are going to, for the most part, check out to see what your personal brand is, especially on your social media, before they can engage with you. So as you are doing this agenda for the week, and as you're becoming productive even from home, consider the things that you can be able to do concerning your brand. And today, what I want to discuss is something that I've already introduced. It's about school. Schools are also being sent home. Schools are being closed and people are actually studying from home. And remember, this message is not necessarily for people who are employed. This message is for every human being. What can you do to become productive? What can you do to become productive even when you are not employed? And the third thing that I want to discuss today is your own personal development. It is one of the most important aspects of life. No one became productive without being personally productive. No one became productive without developing, growing themselves in terms of their capacity in different aspects of their lives. Probably you have already identified what your niche in life is. How can you be able to expand it? You expand it through personal development. You expand it through your mind developing, your ideas developing. You expand it through your body being developed, and so on and so forth. And perhaps the greatest quote you'll ever hear in those words is by Jim Rohn, who told us that formal education will give you a life, but self-education will give you a fortune. And it is true. See, what school normally does is to open our minds so that we can be able to study. In other words, personal development is a mainstay in life. It's not something that you just do. In other words, education is a continuous thing. It is not something that is done in the four walls of school. It's not something that is done when you've graduated and a paper has been hammered, stamped and approved, and you've been given the powers, you've graduated and so on. No. Once you've graduated, and even if you have not graduated, even if you will never graduate, you should still consider personal development in terms of reading and schooling yourself. I've always said this, that the people who develop themselves are actually in obscurity, growing their roots down to such an extent that their leaves start becoming greener and greener, and they start standing head above shoulders above everyone else, and they're able to be seen and be able to be picked. If you're doing interviews, you will see people who have been personally developing themselves standing out even much more than those guys who had bigger, better academic papers than them. Because personal development is what is current. It makes you current. It makes you on the cutting edge. It sharpens you. It's like sharpening the saw, like what Stephen R. Covey said in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that you need to have personal development done. There are many people that I know who speak as if they have a master's in a particular thing, and they don't. Why? It is because they have developed themselves on that thing on a daily basis. Every time you go and you recruit yourself for this professional course, one way or another, maybe it's ACCA you're doing, maybe it's some kind of SIPS, or maybe it's some bridging course you're taking, and some business course you're taking, some computer course you're taking. They normally measure that thing in 2 ways. First, they measure it in terms of content, and then they measure it in terms of duration, and then they slap the amount of fees in there. But you see, right now, on a daily basis, you can free of charge, maybe using internet, but you can free of charge just using your own time. On a daily basis, on a daily waking basis, you can decide to develop yourself on one aspect. And you do this 30 minutes every single day without fail. That means that in 1 week alone, you are accruing a total of 210 minutes. If you multiply that by 4, you're accruing a total of 840 minutes in terms of 1 month. If you put it together in terms of hours, you're having at least 14 hours of content in something in 1 month. If you do that in 12 months, you're having X number of content in that particular area. And now it's just not intellectual. It starts morphing into your character, morphing into your attitude, morphing into your disposition, morphing into the reasoning capacity, cognitive capacity that you're having, and so on and so forth. In other words, you're becoming a better person just doing that kind of a thing. And that's one of the things we can be able to do in this day and age and become productive. See, productivity is a function of knowledge also. It's not just a function of muscle. When you add neurons onto your brains, it's actually much more powerful to add neurons onto your brains than to add muscle onto your skeleton. So you add neurons onto your brains in the area that you're passionate about. If you're passionate about fashion, you read about fashion every single day for 30 minutes. If you're passionate about people, you read about people every single day for 30 minutes, and so on and so forth. And you keep becoming productive in that area. And you don't need a teacher in that area. You don't need someone to stand and to tell you this and tell you that. That's why I've always insisted that this is a self-leadership thing that you and I need to pull off in this day and in this age that we are being forced to work from home. And you realize that we should have been doing this even all along before the lockdown, before the curfews came to us. So if you wanted to continue becoming productive in this day and in this age, have an agenda. In that agenda, organize it around your purpose, number one. Also organize it around your presence, which is your personal brand, number two. And today, number three, organize it around your personal development. Your personal development is not going to give you any money at the end of the month. Like I've already told you. It's not going to give you any money at the end of the week and maybe at the end of 2 months or something. But when it starts paying back, you're being paid for pedigree, you're being paid for presence, you're being paid for your authority. That's the word I was looking for. You become an authority in the area that you expose yourself in. And people normally pay top dollar for authorities. And people normally look for them instead of the other way around. Well, we're going to continue discussing these aspects of what can you be able to do so that you can become productive even when you are jobless or when you're working from home. Until tomorrow, bye-bye. A special shout out to my mentor Jeffrey Howard of Visionary Business University, found at mastermindmentor.com, who has graciously provided me with the soundtrack and the introductory track to this podcast. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you for listening to Life Signatures Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to Life Signatures Radio on iTunes, Stitcher, or visit our website at lifesignatures.libsyn.com. Life Signatures Radio, fresh, clean, and inspiring.